So one night, this couple's at home eating dinner and they have a friend over. And suddenly, boom, the door gets kicked in and there's two men standing there with guns drawn. So the husband, we'll call him Pete. And the wife, her name's Francine. Now, Pete and Francine, they're not wealthy or anything. They're just a couple of working actors. And they have no idea who these two men are or why they targeted them. Now the men, we'll just call them the brothers. Now the brothers run toward them with their pew-pews out. And they're screaming orders at them. Get up! Then the brothers grab them, Pete, Francine, and their friend, who we'll just call Friend. And the brothers grab the three of them and they drag them all upstairs to the bedroom. And then they hold them at gunpoint. And one by one, they tie them up. Then one of the brothers goes back downstairs and he starts sifting through Pete and Francine's stuff. And then he loots their house and he loads all their valuables into Pete and Francine's car. Meanwhile, upstairs, the other brother has all three of them tied up and he's holding them at gunpoint. While Francine is trying to talk to the guy like, hey, please don't do this. And secretly, she's low-key trying to memorize his facial features just in case she makes it out of this alive. Then the brother goes over to Francine and he holds her down while he's still got a pew-pew to her head. And then he gets on top of her and he does something to her that I won't elaborate on, but starts with an R. And then when he's done, he goes over and does the same thing to her friend. All while Francine's husband Pete is there in the room and he's forced to witness the whole thing. And when they're done, the brothers get in Pete and Francine's car and they drive away. And Pete and Francine and Friend, they're absolutely horrified by what just happened. So they immediately go to police and they tell them everything. And luckily, Francine had memorized the attacker's face. So she helps police create one of those police sketches of the guy. But unfortunately, that sketch is all they have to go on. Regardless, police go out and they look for the brothers. But after a few days, it's kind of a dead end and they got nothing. But then, one night, an officer's out on patrol, and he sees a car that he finds suspicious. I'm not sure why. But he goes and pulls the car over just before it can enter the freeway and get away. So the officer walks up to the car, and he looks at the guy in the passenger seat, and he thinks, hey, that guy looks familiar. In fact, he looks just like the police sketch that Francine had helped them with. An officer realizes that it's one of the brothers, and bam, he arrests him right there. So Pete and Francine, they get the call, and then they go down to the police station to confirm that they got the right guy. And when they get there, they see there are already a ton of witnesses there ready to identify the brothers for other crimes they had committed. So the brothers get charged, they go to trial. The one that did the R word gets 2 life sentences. The other brother who looted their house, he gets less prison time, but still a lot of time. And poor Pete and Francine, they get years and years of therapy to help them recover from this horrible experience. But that is not actually the craziest part of Pete and Francine's story. Remember how I said they're working actors? Years later, Pete and Francine go on to create a television show. Completely unrelated to the robbery. But they create a show, and she acts in it, and he produces it. And that show becomes massively successful in the 90s. Because Pete is actually Peter Mark Jacobson, and Francine is actually Fran Drescher. And that show they created is The Nanny. It becomes one of the most popular sitcoms of all time. Also, much later, Francine actually goes on to become president of the Screen Actors Guild. It's pretty cool. And the sitcom has nothing to do with them getting robbed or whatever. It's just an interesting story. Anyway, shout out to New York. One night, everything's quiet and everyone in this house is asleep. And this guy, he gets a hammer and he goes over to his friend's bed where she's sleeping and he swings it down on her as hard as he can. Now, the guy's name is Sam. He's 20. He actually goes by the name Psycho Sam because he's an aspiring rapper in the horrorcore genre. Horrorcore is, of course, a subgenre of rap that sucks. Anyway, one day, Sam, he meets this girl online, and her name's Emma. Now, Emma is only 16, but she's super into horrorcore, and she likes Sam's raps, and he seems pretty cool, and eventually they start dating. But, unfortunately, they live on opposite sides of the country, so their whole relationship is online. Now, these two online date for about a year, and things are going well. They're really into each other, he's saying, I love you, it's adorable. Then one day, they finally see an opportunity to meet up in person. There's a horrorcore festival happening a few states away from Emma that they can meet up and go to. So boom, it's on, and Sam flies all the way from California to Virginia where Emma lives to meet her. And when he gets there, he gets off the plane and he sees her, and she's beautiful, she's got cool pink hair. I mean, these two are about to have a great time. No, they're not. Because the moment Emma sees Sam, she's very disappointed. But he's really different from his photos. He isn't actually this cool, badass, horrorcore rap guy. In reality, he's really shy and kind of immature, and honestly, she just doesn't find him very good looking. And she's polite and everything, but poor Sam. He knows she's disappointed. He can see it on her face. Regardless, from there, they go and they meet up with Emma's friend, who we'll call Sidekick. And then all three of them get ready to go to the show. Then Emma's mom and Emma's dad, who we'll just call Emma's mom and Emma's dad, they drive the three of them out to this horrorcore music festival. So they get to the festival, and the music's good, and a lot of their online friends are there, and Sam wants to spend time with Emma, but still, Emma's not really feeling him. And this is upsetting for Sam, and it's not long before they get into a fight. And I guess this fight is really bad, because Emma ends up breaking it off with Sam. And this just destroys him. He's devastated. So eventually the concert ends, and Emma's mom and dad drive them to Emma's mom's house. Then Emma's dad leaves, because they don't actually live together. Emma's mom and dad are divorced. So now you got Sam, Emma, Sidekick, and Emma's mom all in this house. And Sam plans to stay a few more days, and then he's gonna fly back home. But, quietly, Sam has been stewing this whole time. So they all go to bed, and they're in separate rooms. And Sam, he's just lying there, and he's pissed off. I mean, he loves this girl, and now she wants nothing to do with him. And later, around 3 a.m., he's still up, and everyone else is asleep. And he gets up, and he searches the house, and he finds a ball-peen hammer. And then he creeps over to the couch where Sidekick is sleeping. He's so angry about the whole situation, he swings the hammer down on her, and it unalives her instantly, before she can even wake up. Then he goes upstairs where Emma's mom is sleeping, and he does the same thing to her. And finally, he creeps over into Emma's room, and she's there sleeping peacefully, and he does the same thing to her. Then a few days go by, and Sam is still there in the house with the bodies. Now, Sidekick's mom, who we'll just call Sidekick's mom, she hasn't been able to get a hold of Sidekick for a few days, and she's getting worried. So she calls police to go over there to do a welfare check on her. Then police show up to Emma's house, and they knock, and Sam answers the door. But officers, I guess, don't see or smell anything wrong. So they just ask him a few questions, and then they leave. But Sidekick's mom is not satisfied with this. She knows something's wrong. So she calls Emma's dad, and she asks him to go over there and check. And Emma's dad's like, sure, I'll go over there and check on him. So Emma's dad drives all the way over to his ex-wife's house, and then he walks in the front door, and he doesn't see anything wrong. It's super quiet. Then suddenly, Sam sneaks up behind him with the hammer, and pow! Right in the back of the head. And of course, Emma's dad doesn't survive that attack. Then Sam grabs Emma's dad's car keys, and he steals his car and he drives it to the airport. Now, I'm not exactly sure how this happened, but on his way to the airport, somehow, Sam veers off the road and gets the car stuck in a ditch. So then a police officer and a tow truck driver show up to tow him. And the officer writes him a ticket for crashing his car in the ditch, but whatever. The tow truck driver ends up giving him a ride to the airport. Meanwhile, Sidekick's mom is still at home, and she's still freaking out, because now she hasn't heard from Emma's dad in a while. So she calls the police again. And police are like, fine, we'll go over there again. And police go back to Emma's house to do a second welfare check. And they get there, and this time it immediately smells like bodies. So immediately police call this in. Like, okay, we're looking for this Psycho Sam guy. And the officer who wrote Sam the ticket for crashing the car in the ditch is like, hey, I think I just wrote that guy a ticket for crashing his car in the ditch. So police rush to the airport, and they find Sam there, sleeping in the terminal, waiting for his flight. So they arrest him, here's his mugshot, and then Sam goes to trial, he pleads guilty, and he gets life. Anyway, here's some of his music.
The evil voices, they're in my head. They wanna see me kill.
So this TikToker, let's call her Spirit. One day, she's in bed and she starts seeing these creatures, and they start talking to her. Now, Spirit is 14 years old, she's a good kid, she goes to private school, she's class president, and she also makes a lot of TikToks, mostly just dancing and lip-syncing videos. Spirit also has an older sister. Let's just call her Angel. Angel's 19, and she has cerebral palsy, and she uses a wheelchair. And when Spirit and Angel hang out, Spirit sings her songs and reads to her. They seem to be happy. But over time, Spirit's TikToks start to change. They get a little darker, kind of an emo vibe, because she's being bullied at school. She's becoming depressed. She also thinks she might be trans, but it isn't clear. And so Spirit retreats more and more into the horror movies she likes, and she starts to have dark, intrusive thoughts. And one day, Spirit has a normal day. She goes to school, she gets home, she posts a TikTok, and bedtime comes and she goes to bed and everyone in the house is asleep. And that is when she's approached by these creatures. And I don't know what to call them, so we'll just call them demons. And these demons, they start speaking to her. Now, Spirit doesn't like this. It scares her. She doesn't know what to do. Then the demons start bullying her. They're making fun of the way she looks, they're taunting her for maybe being trans, and they allegedly start telling her to herself. So Spirit gets out of bed and she sneaks through the dark and she goes downstairs. She goes to the kitchen and grabs a large kitchen knife. And the demons keep taunting her. So finally, Spirit does the only thing she can think of. She turns the knife on one of the demons. And she stabs it, hoping it'll go away. And she does this over and over again. And eventually she stops and she looks down and realizes she wasn't stabbing a demon. She had been stabbing her sister, Angel. So Spirit calls 911. Then she goes out into the front yard and waits for the police. Police get there and she straight up admits it. I unalived my sister. So they arrest her and it's a huge deal and all her TikTok followers are like, what the f***? And eventually, all of this goes to trial. And at the trial, Spirit's attorney argues a version of the story I just told you. That Spirit killed Angel because Spirit was depressed, experiencing hallucinations, which I represented with pictures of demons, but who knows what the hell she was seeing. Now, the prosecuting attorney, on the other hand, they argue that's bullshit. That this wasn't because of hallucinations, and that Spirit was obsessed with homicide, and that she would often talk to her friends about unaliving people, and that she shows no remorse in killing her sister. And allegedly, when Spirit was in police custody, an officer's phone rings, and his ringtone is the theme to Halloween, and Spirit jokes, I just Michael Myers to my sister. And then another time while in police custody, police gave her McDonald's, and she said, I would have killed someone sooner if I knew I was getting McDonald's. And so the prosecuting attorneys use all of these things against Spirit in court. However, both prosecution and defense agree that Spirit is mentally unwell. So Spirit is tried as an adult, and eventually she pleads guilty to third-degree murder, and here's her mugshot, and she's in prison now, serving 12 to 40 years. And to this day, we still don't exactly have a clear understanding of why she did it.